Just so many of the Fox Marvel films have been complete flops. And, of course they've had success with Deadpool, with Logan, but then they've also given us all of the Fantastic Four movies within the past 20 years. They've given us X-Men Origins, they've given us X-Men 3, they gave us X-Men Apocalypse, so...
Nothing wrong with Apocalypse.
What?
Nothing wrong with Apocalypse.
I mean, I don't hate Apocalypse, but I don't think it lived up to anyone's expectations, I just use that as an example.
Apocalypse could have been a little better.
It just had a potential, and they sort of blew it. And again, Dark Phoenix just looks like a mistake. I'm calling it right now. It's not going to be that good.
Yeah, I feel like the whole ending was just to advertise the next movie rather than making it good.
Basically. Well, here's my problem with Dark Phoenix. First of all, I think Sophie Turner was a poor choice to play Jean Grey. She just looks nothing like...
100%.
Beyond that, she's just... I don't know. Maybe it's me as an American hearing her pseudo-American accent. It just doesn't sound like an American accent.
Yeah.
It sounds like a British girl trying to do an American accent and, failing miserably.
Well, you know what? She's a redhead, so let's at least be glad they didn't change her race into something else, because they tend to do that with redheads.
Yeah, that's true. I respect them at least not, what's the word? Ginger washing.
Well, it would be ginger washing. What would be ginger washing?
I realize what it, but for the sake of humor, I kept it as ginger
more like
washing.
I don't know what to call it.
Yeah,
anti-ginger.
Anti-gingering. Which we all know that Hollywood has a history of ginger washing.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes, indeed.
I'm trying to think of an example. I know there's at least a few examples.
I'm curious about, though? Looking in at the MCU, right?
Sure.
You see the stories of all the superheroes and all the mutants and stuff. You never see the story of the average person and what they think of the superhero and or mutant.
Well, I mean, there's the X-Men movies. You look at the first two X-Men movies. It was all about, it was all an allegory for, various civil rights movements. Obviously, the civil rights movement of the 1960s, Professor X and Magneto were basically stand-ins for MLK and Malcolm X, in the same way that Black Panther and Killmonger were in Black Panther. You could also see it as an allegory for LGBT rights, and there's a few obvious lines that Bryan Singer threw in there to give you that vibe. Have you tried not being a mutant?
Mm-hmm.
You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
But I mean, that kind of gives you an outsider's perspective. These mutants didn't ask to be born mutant, but
that was also the 60s. A lot has changed till current day.
X-Men and X-Men 2 were both in the early 2000s. That wasn't that long ago. And it took place in the early 2000s. So,
all right, yeah. I'm just stupid.
X-Men was made in the 60s, though, weren't they?
What?
Where X-Men, they first came out in the 60s, the comics.
Yeah, that's true. But again, I don't think they really had the same allegory back then. It's kind of obvious in retrospect. But again, I haven't really read a lot of early 60s X-Men comics, so I couldn't.
Well,
you're telling me that the average person in the... Well, at least the X-Men is just kind of against mutants.
Think of how most Americans felt towards LGBT relationships, LGBT people in the early 2000s. That's basically how the average person felt about mutants in the X-Men universe in the early 2000s.
Well, it's worse about mutants.
Yeah, a little bit.
There's a senator who actively tries to come up with this chemical that will just neuter all of them from having their powers, but then you find out it's just to kill them.
Again, that's pretty close to modern, or not modern, but some LGBT thoughts. There were historically, a lot of groups that tried to castrate these people, that tried to, basically make them uninterested in the same sex, make them straight. If that was possible. And
I don't see why, because more gay guys.
Yeah.
There was literal castration. You look at what happened to what's his name? Alan Turing,
Yeah.
You know who I'm talking
about.
Yeah. They literally made him take pills to make him not have a sex drive, and he ended up killing himself because he was so depressed.
Yeah. What was the movie they made about him? The
Enigma Machine.
No, that was the thing that he made, but that was not the movie called.
I thought that was Imitation Game.
The Imitation Game, that's what it is. Imitation Game, yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah, that he did really well there, too.
Yeah, so...
So Doctor Strange... No, I'm joking.
Yeah. But yeah, I think
what I don't get?
A great example of just how horrible humans have been in the past. It's not even been a century, and we've just been so fucking terrible to people who aren't exactly like us.
People suck. People just suck in general.
We really do suck.
If you take one thing away today, it's that you suck. But you're great if you follow.
Just if you exist, you're a terrible person. That's just humanity for you.